All right. Welcome, everybody. We are doing our special live stream podcast tonight on our not normal Sunday. It is Thursday night. We are doing it at 9 o'clock today because we have a very special guest joining us. You definitely will know him from Ghosts of Devil's Perch, The Holzer Files, and soon he will be doing a new TV show on Beacon TV called Paranormal Mysteries, I believe it's called, if I can remember right here. Um, he does not need, sorry guys, I'm sharing this out to Facebook here. He does not need no introduction. Everybody will know him by his face, his voice, everything. Please welcome Mr. Dave Schrader to the stage here.
Know me by my voice and my face, you say? So can they tell who I is?
Dave, you look so different.
How you doing tonight?
Great. How are you?
Doing well.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
No complaints. No complaints. Winter's almost gone. Spring has sprung. We are just getting ready for some warmer weather, hopefully, and to get back out into the real world, having some fun doing live events.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it's almost over by how it is out there right now.
Yeah. Oh, are you guys getting some snow?
We're getting rain right now, but
Yeah.
no snow. But with the wind and everything, it's pretty chilly out there right now.
Yeah, I'll still take a little rain and chilly winds over the -40 of Minnesota from time to time.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's low mid 50s right now out here. So
Balmy. We'd be out in our tank tops washing cars in my really short denim shorts, my flip flops.
Flip flops with socks on.
No,
No,
What am
okay.
what am I? I'm not from Wisconsin.
Good deal. Good to know.
So we're not going to use the usual introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, because everybody knows who you are already, Dave. So
Well, for those that don't, real quick, I'm Dave Schrader. I've been a paranormal radio host for 19 years. I've been lucky enough to appear on shows like Paranormal State. I've been on about a dozen episodes of Ghost Adventures. I did a mini series with Zach Baggins called Paranormal Challenge. I've been on Haunted Hospitals. I was a lead investigator on a TV show called The Holzer Files and on Ghosts of Devil's Perch. As you said at the beginning, I'm on a new show that will be out this fall called Paranormal Mysteries. And I've been an active researcher, experiencer, and interviewer for the last 19 years, but throughout my entire life, I've had strange experiences happen. So I appreciate people that may not know who I am, and it's okay. I have a lot of people that come up to me at events and they're like, "I'm sorry, I don't know who you are." And I go, "That's okay. I don't know who you are either."
So with paranormal mysteries, I know you can't divulge too much information, but what can you tell us about it?
Well, there'll be some paranormal and some mysteries. I'm re-teamed up with Cindy Kaza, the medium, and you recognize her from Holzer Files and Ghosts of Devil's Perch and Dead Files and Jack Osborne and every other paranormal show out there, plus all the shock docs she did with Steve Shippey and with Shane Pittman from Holzer Files and 28 Days Haunted. And people really seem to like the chemistry between the three of us, and we decided to do a series together. So we're doing 6 episodes. Should begin airing mid-September through the end of October, and we'll have that airing on Stream Beacon TV, and people can find the app for that. There is some free content on there that they can go try it and check it out. But for like $5 a month, you get it's the new kind of go-to for all things paranormal.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I've been seeing on Facebook lately too. There's another show that you did. It hasn't found a home yet, though. What can you tell us about that one?
The Outer Edge is a really cool little concept show that gives us a chance to explore many different aspects of the paranormal. So we're not just pigeonholed into ghosts, because I think there's so much more fascinating things to talk about. I love ghosts, obviously, but monsters, myths, legends, going out there talking to experiencers, talking to people who have spent their life trying to understand these enigmas and going out there, and it's funny. It's all walks of life. You've got, you've got mayors and morticians that are out there investigating claims of the paranormal. You've got cops out there investigating ghosts and UFOs. You've got, former military out there exploring cryptids and ghosts. And so it's just great to hear everybody's story and get a chance to meet them, go to these places, hear the uniqueness of the location and of the people that are involved.
Awesome. What kind of locations did you go to with that? Can you tell us any of those?
Well, kind of. It's real sticky, and a lot of these things you sign this real thick NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. We went out to one of my favorite locations in Minnesota, which is the Palmer House Hotel, and did some investigating there with Dalen Spratt from the Ghost Brothers and a shaman friend of mine named Francis from Mongolia, and went out investigating a very famous yet not as well-known UFO case, which is really amazing, that took place here in Minnesota. And then talked to Scott Walter from the TV show America Unearthed and Secret of the Templar's Gold, and different shows like that. So we're kind of incorporating all different types and all different strange elements. And then our good friend Echo Bodine, the medium, is a part of the program as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's going to be, we also go out to Oregon talking about strange light anomalies and cryptids.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of the trailers that they've been posting on Facebook, and it looks like a great show that's going to happen.
Thank you. Yeah, we're hoping. I mean, the company I'm working with is extremely good at what they do, and they take out, they'll do 2 or 3 episodes, then they take it out and shop them to networks. And people, they've sold, I think, 2 or 3 series already. So I'm hoping that this will be their next series that gets greenlit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So I know most people probably ask you, like, what's the scariest thing you've seen in the paranormal and that. I'd like to know what is like the most emotional thing that has happened to you, like where it's brought like almost tears to you or something like that.
Almost tears. Well, if you've watched any of the shows I've been on, I've bawled like a baby on a couple episodes. The episode of Holzer Files called Final Word that took place at Franklin Castle in Ohio. That was very emotional for me, because the morning we went there to film, I woke up in the morning and I'm kind of scrolling through my phone as I'm shaking the cobwebs out of my brain, and I was struck with a memory on Facebook, and it had been like 2 years since I almost lost my daughter to complications of diabetes. And I was just like, wow, man, I'm so blessed, so blessed. And then I went in and sat down with the historian and started talking to the historian about the case that we were investigating. And they told me about this young girl who passed away. I said, oh, how did she pass away? She goes, well, it's complications of diabetes. And I just burst out crying. And we had this really emotional episode. I just felt really tied to that. And then, as part of the story is, this little girl's ghost only makes herself known to children. So here are 3 grown-ass adults. How are we going to make communication with this spirit? So I thought, well, I wonder. And I called my daughter and I said, would you do me a favor? And would you make me a video with about 5 questions? Anything you want to know about the paranormal or about this girl's life or death. So my daughter made 2 videos, each about 5 questions long. And I played them like you would in an EVP session, but I introduced the young girl and I said, this is my daughter, Ripley. She also has diabetes and she almost died a few years ago, but she had a question or 2 for you. And I put out the phone and I let my daughter ask the questions while we ran a recorder, and we got EVP responses, and we captured later on in the episode a beautiful apparition of the little girl. So I was that was very powerful to me. And I cried like a baby through that whole thing because it was such an emotional tie and something that I could relate to. Imagine having this child's spirit is just kind of landlocked in this home looking for her parents, and her parents who died years later seem to also be there, but they can't find each other and they can't find her. So it was really heart-wrenching to me. I also did an episode of Ghosts of Devil's Perch where I tried doing the Estes method. And, I had the headphones on, my eyes were covered, and I started hearing what sounded like 1,000 people screaming and crying in pain as they were dying. And I realized that there's a mine that runs underneath this property, and that this is near where a bunch of people were killed in a mine collapse. So that was very, very emotional for me, because I could hear it. I could hear it happening, and it was absolutely heart-wrenching and terrifying all at once.
Yeah, I remember that episode. After you mentioned it now, it brought back memory of that one.
Yeah, so those are probably two of the most emotional moments I've had. I mean, I've had a couple other personal things that have happened, when I have a crucifix that has my mom's ashes in it. And my mom used to go with me on the road all the time to go to these live events, and she just loved the paranormal. And my biggest advocate and fan out there. And I would take her with me in the cross to film, or I would take her to, some of these trips. And I went on this cruise, and I came back from the cruise and I realized the necklace was gone. And I thought, oh no, I lost my mom at sea. Right. And then I'm like, all right, I'm trying to comfort myself. I'm like, okay, mom loved to travel. Mom loved the sea. Mom loved dolphins. So the worst case scenario is she's on the cruise ship getting to cruise the world for eternity, or she fell into the ocean and she's amongst the dolphins and the sea life. She's going to be pleased with that. And how silly. I mean, I've got a little crucifix with a, puff of my mom's ash in it. Meanwhile, at home, I've got this giant 3-foot tall angel urn with all of my mom's ashes in it. And so I was trying to keep myself grounded. And one day I was just sitting at my computer, and I have control of my mom's Facebook account. And I pulled up my mom's messenger, and I sent her a message, and I just said, Mom, really missing you. I love you. And if there's any way just to let me know you're around, that would be great. And as fate would have it, my son had lost his glasses. And, I told the kids, go look for the glasses. Nobody could find them. And I said, I'll give $5 to the first person that can go find the glasses. And of course, then every kid was involved, and they were running around the house. And my one son comes over to me, and he's a very sweet-hearted kid, but obviously a pair of glasses could not fit in this little clay jar I had. And funny enough, they're Egyptian clay jars. They're replicas of what, when you would be mummified, they would remove your heart and put it into one, your brain and put it into the other, and other things into these jars. And this was the jar of life. And my son came over to me and he goes, Daddy, look what I found. And he opened up the jar, and inside the jar was my mom's crucifix with her ashes. The necklace was gone, but the crucifix was there. I have no explanation for it. And I know that it was never in there to begin with. And I knew that the last place I had it was on the cruise. So I think it's interesting that within 24 hours of writing my mom a message, just saying, let me know if there's any way you can, that you're still around. And all of a sudden the crucifix shows back up. So that was an emotional, beautiful little moment as well.
Wow. So Jamie's got a question for you, Dave. She said she'd like to know how it became a staple during investigations that Shane always gets put in the closets, basements, and other spooky areas.
Okay, good question. And so let's reevaluate this. If you watch the TV shows, you'll notice that at one point or another, Cindy was in the same scary room. I was in the same scary room. We all took turns being alone in all the places at these locations. But Shane has this nervous energy about him. And as you know, a lot of times when you're in a haunted location, what you bring to the investigation sometimes has to do with you personally. And I would put Shane in places that were known to be active, because I thought his chaotic energy might get some kind of activity going. Plus, for TV, it's fun to watch Shane have to march into the place nobody wants to go to at first. So that was the case. But we all took turns in those same places. And you'll notice there's times I'd send him into those scary places and nothing happened to him. But Cindy would go down there and have something happen, or I would go down there and have something happen. So we all took our turns having that. And I always joke around about the fact, I'm the one that started #PoorShane. I started that when we were on doing the live tweets during the shows. We were encouraged by Travel Channel to go live tweet with the audience. So I said, oh, stay tuned after the commercial. We're going to have a real #PoorShane moment. And then it was just anytime anything weird happened, it was #PoorShane. And it just kind of picked up from there. But I always remind people when they're like, "You're a bully. You always sent them to the worst places." I remind everybody we all went to those places. We were all there together. And in 23 episodes, Shane got hurt and scratched his elbow in one episode. I got bit in the arm and I got knocked down on my butt on the very first episode at the Whaley House in San Diego, California. And then when we were doing the second season, I got knocked back at the top of the stairs. I got knocked back into a bathroom and split my back open on a toilet paper dispenser in the bathroom. So I think if anybody deserves the hashtag poor somebody, it should be poor Dave, because I'm the only one that actually has the physical scars left over from the show. He just has the mental scars.
Yeah.
Oh man. So there's the answer for you, Jamie.
Yep.
So
Plus, you want him there. You need him there. Like Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men, right? It's you want him on that wall. You need him on that wall because you love watching Shane get freaked out when he's in a scary environment.
Yep.
So what is what got you into wanting to do the paranormal as a career? What got you started doing that?
I never wanted to do the paranormal as a career. I'm still not doing it as a career. I'm doing radio as a career. It just so happens that I was lucky enough to launch a show talking about the paranormal. And that was a topic that I found fascinating and interesting. And at the time we began back in 2006, there was nobody else really doing this. There was Coast to Coast AM, and that was it. And within like 3 months' time, Ghostly Talk, Night Watch, and Darkness Radio and Jim Harold's Paranormal Podcast all launched within about 3 months of each other. And we were kind of the Mount Rushmore of the original paranormal radio and podcast shows. And I think at this point, it's just Jim Harold and I that still exist out there doing this long term. And Tim Dennis, who now is the host of Darkness Radio, was my old co-host. I left 3 years ago and started my new show, The Paranormal 60. So I've been a part of this for a long time, but radio was my real passion. The paranormal is just something that I was fascinated by, and I wanted to bring it to the audience and have adult fun conversations about the paranormal. And then I decided early on, I didn't want to just be a guy sitting there listening to other people's stories. I wanted to go inject myself into these places and go see if I can have an experience myself.
Is that what got you in doing the investigations as well then?
Yeah, just because I heard all of these claims, and when you're on the radio show and you're talking on the phone, this was before the video interviews like this, you're just hearing this voice from the void of space talking to you, telling you these strange, impossible to believe stories. So I just decided, why not just go out there and investigate these things for myself? Do they measure up to what we see on TV? And I was really excited to start getting a chance to go out and see things, have those experiences, and realize that this happens to people from all walks of life, all different belief systems, all sexualities, all financial situations. So it really does show how close we really are in this world.
What
Alicia wanted to know my funniest experience I've ever had. I'm trying to think of something paranormal that was funny. There's been times when you think something paranormal has happened and it isn't. It turns out it's just the dog, right? And that freaked you out effectively. I can't think of anything particular that was funny that surrounded the paranormal. I mean, we've all had moments during the investigations when we start laughing about stupid stuff, but nothing specific that comes to mind. I think you have to have fun when you do this. I think you have to remain positive and, lighthearted in a lot of these cases. And everybody's like, no, you have to be serious. Hey, as in death, so in life, right? So if these ghosts were humans at one point, they had a sense of humor. Why do we have to be this stodgy? I would rather talk to somebody who's fully living and enjoying themselves and asking questions than somebody who's just serious all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
We got to stop talking about Shane. No, we don't. As a matter of fact, let's talk about him some more. He has a brand new book that's out and available
Yeah.
right now that goes into his life and what got him into the paranormal. And it really is a beautiful book, beautifully written, beautifully shared. And he goes into the fact that, you know, and I think a lot of people will appreciate this in our field. You realize that a lot of the emotional, physical, and mental scars we carry with us in life may make us prone to having paranormal experiences. And a lot of people, and I'm sure you two are probably part of this as well. We can all look back at these strange moments in our lives, maybe times when we felt isolated and alone. Then you realize, and here I am in a community trying to understand and trying to make things a little smaller and closer. So I'm really excited for Shane's new book, Shane Pittman. You can go find it on Amazon.com and or order it directly from him, get signed copies, or go out and see him at some of these live events, and he'll be signing them. I did the foreword for the book. I'll be happy to sign it for you as well. But it's a great book, and it's a really good read, and gives people, I think, a new perspective and a new window for people to look at why they may even have an interest. They may not even realize why.
So,
Will I do the audio version of the book, of Shane's book? Well, I think it should be Shane. I love audiobooks. I love audiobooks, and I listen to them all the time. But when I listen to somebody's audiobook, I like hearing it from them in their own voice, because it feels like you're sitting down at the table having that discussion with the person, and you get to hear from them. Plus, I think because it's such a personal book, hearing the emotions directly from Shane, and I'm sure there are parts of the book he left out or forgot about, and as he's reading it, I'm encouraging him that to add to the audiobook as he's reading the story and go, I wrote this book, this is what I said, but after writing this, I was reminded of, and then telling a little bit more behind the story. So I hope that he's encouraged to do his own audiobook.
I love that. The hillbilly version. Yes, let's do it.
He'll do the hillbilly version. I'll do the one for the North, so I can explain what all means to the rest of the country.
So since we're talking about books, Dawn, I know you had some questions for Dave about his books.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I thought I saw an interview, and it might have been a year or so ago when Theater of the Mind first came out. But weren't you talking about maybe putting some more stories into other books, continuing with that line?
Yeah, best laid plans, right, of mice and men. We plan on things. I've got more than enough stories to probably do about 4 or 5 books just off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I started on book 2 and then got sidetracked because another pet project that I really love and have wanted to do something about and keep getting put on the back burner from TV and everybody else. I think it's a great concept. I just decided, screw it, I'm not going to wait for somebody else to see my vision. So I kind of put my Theater of the Mind Part 2 book aside, and I started writing this book. So I'm about halfway through the book now, about 130 pages in. I'd like to get to about 260 pages. And it's also paranormal, but I don't want to give too much away at this point. It's paranormal themed with another element. They're all real stories, and I think it's something that is going to really appeal to a lot of people. So I want to just jump on that bandwagon before A, somebody else does, or B, I forget the stories I wanted to talk about. So I've got that book. I'm hoping I can have out by the end of June, beginning of July, because I'd like to have it and introduce it for the fall events that I'm going to be a part of.
That's awesome. Yeah. But I really loved Theater of the Mind. So
thank you. Yeah. And I still plan on releasing the second part and continuing to release a couple books a year. I'm just not Richard Estep. I don't know how that guy writes 15 books a year. And Jeff Belanger and Mike Ricksecker, they have got the gift, man. They can just sit down and hammer it out. I deal with such insecurities about my own life that I start writing and then I shelve things for a while because I just feel like nobody's going to want to read this. And, I've got a book that I started writing about my own life and from very early on all the way through to a year ago, talking about my paranormal experiences in my own paranormal life. And then I just kind of got bogged down with the sense of, I feel very egotistical. like, oh, you should hear my stories. And then I kind of felt like, I don't know that I don't know. I liked incorporating in theater of the mind. Um, it's a book of a bunch of stories, and two of
Yeah.
them are mine. One is a haunted hospital story, one is a haunted doll story, and the rest are stories that have been shared with me from listeners over the last 19 years that said I could incorporate their book in or their story in my book. So I wanted to share all these different amazing examples of stories from all around the world from all different people and show you that it doesn't just have to be about ghosts. It can be about time slips and light anomalies and aliens and UFOs and cryptids and demons and dream visitations. And, so I really wanted to kind of, write that out. And I'm glad I went with that one. And I've got so many other great stories that I'm putting together for the second book.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite story from the first one?
They're all my favorite stories. That's why they went in the very first.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to make it sound like book 2 is not going to be the same kind of quality stories. They are, but it was kind of like,
Right.
I've done so many talks over the last years, and these kind of were some
Mhm.
of my favorite stories and the ones that people were always, it was almost like, you go to a concert and you see a band play and you, they're going to play Freebird, right? Or they're going to play,
Mhm.
Legs by ZZ Top, or they're going to play, Born in the USA by Bruce Springsteen. You know that band is going to play some of their greatest hits. And I
Mhm.
thought it was funny that even though I'd told these stories for so many years, I would go do events and I would be telling a bunch of new stories, and somebody would raise their hand. I'd say, yeah. And they're like, could you tell us the story about the Black Eyed Kids? And I'm like, oh, well, I've got a couple of new no, tell that creepy one. So it feels like, to me, it's funny. I have the luxury of being a storyteller who can tell you new stories and then go back in to my greatest hits catalog and share those stories again.
Mhm. Cool.
Yeah, so I've got a bunch that I like the ones that are kind of timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly, and make you really consider that what you think you know about the paranormal, you may not even be close to fully understanding or grasping. When you
Yeah.
start talking about people see doppelgangers. Well, doppelgangers are evil. Who told us that? Maybe you're just seeing through a slip in time. Maybe you seeing yourself walk through the yard isn't because something evil is trying to be you, but maybe you
Mhm.
just saw through time and space. And, maybe that moment happened. So I think that there's some really cool elements to these type of stories that it allows you to continue to evolve. I've never pigeonholed myself in the paranormal. I came in with a set of beliefs and I've changed radically on these beliefs, and I just keep fluid because there are new aspects and concepts that really kind of strike me when it comes to what ghosts may be or what some of these paranormal experiences may actually mean. And I don't think there's any one
Mhm.
specific answer.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Derek McFadden says, Dave, have you come across skeptics in your career? Oh, a lot. And how do you react to skeptics when talking paranormal? It's a good question, Derek. First of all, I wonder if maybe you're mistaking the word skeptic with cynic. Those are two different things. I'm a skeptic, and I'm betting, Derek, you're a skeptic. Uh, Everybody should be skeptical. We shouldn't just follow blindly and believe
Mhm.
in things just because it aligns with our beliefs. You should still question. So it doesn't mean every story I hear I believe, but I respect people enough to have their own stories and their own experiences and just let them breathe and be that way. Cynics are a different lot. Joe Nickel is a very well-known and in some circles well-respected skeptic. It hurt my mouth to even say that. Um, I just think he's a jerk. He's a pompous blowhard who always has an answer, but none of them are any more realistic than the paranormal experiences we're explaining. And I just have a problem with him. Now, Ben Radford, who is also close with Joe Nichols, Ben, I feel is a more respectful skeptic. He's not nearly as condescending and rude as Joe Nickel. He still has a deeply rooted belief that these things are mistaken and that they're not actually paranormal. And then you've got, Dr. Michael Shermer, who does Paranormal Magazine or Skeptic Magazine, and he's a lot more open-minded than people would give him credit for. And he says, Dave, I would love to have an experience. And so much so that when I did that show Paranormal Challenge, I invited him to be a guest judge and he accepted. And he came on and he was like, wow, this was an amazing experience, man. I can't tell you that what we just saw was a ghost, but I can't explain what that situation was. So I respect that. Cynics, Jesus Christ himself could walk into the room and start handing out fishes and loaves, and you're going to say, oh, they just, they were pumping gas in here and we're hallucinating, or we all drank the Kool-Aid and obviously there's some kind of drug in it, and there's nothing that will ever add up to make you believe. And I just think that's a dangerous thought. I think that you need to remain open-minded, and who wants to close off to everything? Because magic exists even in the smallest forms. And I think by allowing yourself to be imaginative and open, you get to see some of these glimpses of magic when they occur. And I'm all for that. But my job also, I'm not here to train you or force you to believe what I believe, but I will tell you what I believe. I will share openly with you what I believe, and I will do it in a respectful manner. And I will accept when you don't believe what I believe and hear what you have to say about it. If you become condescending and rude and obnoxious, I'll politely nod and walk away, but I will listen, and I'm always open for a discussion. During the Rockdown, will I be the MC using helium? I have no need for helium. I can do enough weird things with my voice that I don't need to puff helium.
I must have missed that one.
So, speaking of Rockdown, I mean, you're going to be coming to Rockdown. We're combining paranormal with music.
Mhm.
What is your go-to band right now, and what's your favorite song, Dave?
Oh man, it's like asking me who's my favorite kid. It depends on the day and the mood, right? Music is powerful to me. Music is magic. Music is time travel.
Mhm.
Music is the paranormal because it can transport us. It can open our hearts and our minds. The words are incantations or spells. So music is a powerful thing. I love 80s music. Unabashedly, I love 80s music. But I also love the Monkees. I love the Beatles. I love the Rolling Stones, the Who. I wasn't much of a disco guy, but it doesn't mean that I don't jam out to the Bee Gees once in a while. I don't think I close myself down to any kind of music. As a matter of fact, some of my favorite new memories are being on a long car ride with one of my daughters and saying, so what song do you listen to when you're really mad? What song just do you love to be mad to? And then she'll play that song for me. And then I say, what song makes you happy? What song lifts you out of a funk? And she plays a song. And these are songs I've never heard. And I could hear her voice in some of these songs. And it gave me insight into my daughters. And so I've really appreciated that. So I can't say I have a favorite song or a favorite musical act. Bruce Springsteen is always my go-to because I have such a close tie to him with his music kind of saving my life when I was a teenager. But there are so many beautiful and amazing musicians out there who I've found have transported me and brought me out of bad places, brought me to good places, brought me to melancholy places, lifted my heart, reminded my heart. So, it's really tough. And I know that sounds like a waffly answer, but I just can't, and there are some days, right? Here's a funny thing. Whenever I would move, I used to put on the Violent Femmes' first album. And I can't tell you why, but it inspired me. And it was so poppy and dumb and fun for a punk band. And I just loved it. Right. And there were times when I'd be at work and I'd be working in the warehouse and I would put on the soundtrack from the movie Office Space, which was a lot of really hardcore rap songs. Right. And then there are times, my very first big concert was Cyndi Lauper. She's So Unusual. And the big concert I just went and saw this year was Cyndi Lauper's final tour. So it's really kind of neat to bookend that and get a chance to see that and share those moments. So it just depends because every day comes with another feeling or sense. And I have, I'm a Sinatra. I've seen Frank Sinatra perform 4 times. I just love music. I've seen Tom Jones. I've seen heavy metal. I've seen rap. I've seen country. And if it speaks to me, it speaks to me.
I figured you were a big 80s fan when I kept seeing you on the Jericho cruise when he's got almost all 80s bands playing on the Jericho cruise.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Chris Jericho, we live in that same time zone, right? That same time era, and we love it. So I'm all for, just absorbing the music and being a part of it.
I always think of Wham when it comes to you because of the
I
Joliet prison investigation.
in what sense?
I'll refresh your memory.
Please.
We were in the prison and you decided to play music to get us all dancing and stuff. And, I absolutely love that about you, how positive you are and how you like to, make it all a positive thing and,
Oh,
be
yeah.
respectful. But anyway, the first song that you played was Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. And I told this the other night on the podcast too, but we had so much activity come through. It was just so much fun, but we were all dancing and singing. It was great.
Yeah, I think you elevate the energy of the room. And we
Yeah,
talk
for
about
sure.
how people love, the ghosts seem to drain our phones and our flashlights and our cameras. Well, what if we just amp up the energy of the room with our own happiness?
Exactly. And I love
Yeah.
that.
Yep. And Derek, he says, I'm bipolar when it comes to music. I love all types. Yeah. But I think bi means one or the other. I think you're all polar because you love it all.
You'll have to check out Derek's Facebook page. He's doing karaoke all the time on videos.
Man, I wish I could sing. That's the frustrated part of me. I wish I do sing. I don't sing well. And my kids and family will attest to that. But like you get me in the car with my family and I'm singing at the top of my lungs, they have to deal with that. But they're also I'm sitting there listening to the Wicked soundtrack or the Hamilton soundtrack or whatever they're into at the moment, Beetlejuice soundtrack from the play. And singing along. So we're a very musically inclined family. I just wish I could sing. That would have been, I would quit it all. If tomorrow they said you can never have another paranormal experience, but you'll be able to sing well, and you can work at any hotel lounge you'd like, being a lounge singer, I would sign up in an instant, and you would see me in a crushed velvet suit with a ruffly shirt singing Wake Up or What's Up Pussycat. I don't care. Just whatever I can do to get out there and jam.
Oh. So Jenny wants to know when you come to Rockdown, if you'll eat some of Bill's nuts.
First he's gonna have to take me to dinner, then we'll talk.
Oh, what's Jamie saying here?
Yes. Oh my gosh, Jamie, I was going to comment on that. Yeah.
So Jamie's talking about my prayer requests and prayer chains that I put out for spiritual and healing thoughts. I always wanted to use whatever platform I have to try to make life better, right? That's the one thing we can do. Leave the place a little cleaner than when you found it. Leave it a little better off, a little not worse for wear, but a little shinier than when you stepped in. So my thoughts are, if I can use my personality, if I can use my social media, if I can use my radio platform to elevate people in need, I'm more than happy to do that. I mean, that's when I loved radio as a kid, and I used to call big name radio guys in Chicago where I grew up, and they would take my calls and they would answer my questions. And a couple of them invited me into studio to watch them do their work. And they were so kind. And as much as I can, I do every podcast that invites me if I can do it and it fits into my schedule. I have had people come into the studio with me to do my radio show, to watch, because I knew how that made me feel being allowed to come in and see these things and do these things. So I want to, like you said a little bit earlier, Don, sharing the positivity and doing what I can. That's I live for that.
Yeah. Do you know that there's I feel personally like it was almost like a miracle with Chris Fleming.
Yeah.
Do you know that and I've told several people this, but I might have told you when we were in Wisconsin, but I don't remember. No, because I think this was after Wisconsin. But anyway, I had talked to several people I had started having dreams about Chris, that I was like actually there helping take care of him. I would like feed him and get him food and, just help with whatever he needed. And I had mentioned this to other people that knew him, and they were saying, you know what? We're all having that. A lot of people are having that same dream.
Right,
And I
because
just
so
thought,
many of you are putting out the prayer and energy that you may not
yeah,
physically be there with him spoon feeding him chicken noodle soup, but you
yeah,
are giving him chicken noodle soup for the soul and giving him that love. Listen,
mhm,
what's happened to Chris has been a pretty big miracle. When
yeah,
we first found this news out, he literally had a couple of weeks, maybe a month to live.
mhm,
And he had an inoperable, uh, unbeatable cancer. And as soon as we started pouring out the prayers, it changed into a treatable form of cancer. And now his body, he just got his results back. His body is clear of cancer. He doesn't have to do chemo anymore. Right now, he just needs to get healthy so that his immunity numbers can bounce back and he can start living life again. So, yeah, I do see some really remarkable things happen when people come together with good and good intentions.
yeah.
So Alicia is talking about Kendra at the Benton County Paranormal Expo.
Yeah, Kendra's a sweetie, and I love working with kids at events and just watching them light up when it comes to the different things that are taking place. And I think we're so quick to dismiss children and young people because they shouldn't be doing this. Well, if you think about it, almost all of us that are into the paranormal started at an early age, right? And
Correct.
wouldn't it be better to have people that are willing to kneel down and talk you through it instead of look down at you and talk you out of it? I would rather be that person to try to encourage and help and help them understand what's going on rather than belittle them or make them feel bad for what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. My son's
Mhm.
13 and he loves going when he can going on investigations with me.
Well, Kendra, two years ago when we were there, it was really cute. Kendra was we were using a spirit box, and Kendra was trying to get the spirit to acknowledge her birthday in some way. Do you know my birthday? Do you know how old I am? And spirits are just like not having it. And we were in the high school. And I finally said, come on, cut Kendra some slack. Can you at least say happy birthday? And there's a pause, and then clear as day. And all of us were just blown away. You hear this voice come through the spirit box and goes, happy birthday.
Wow.
That clear. And we all just cheered. So, I think it's phenomenal. Sometimes the spirits may not want to jump through fire hoops for all of us and they get tired of feeling like trained monkeys. But once in a while, when they realize there's somebody there that's special and really wants to make communication, I think that they do jump through one fiery hoop.
Now, we're talking about younger generation doing this, like 13, 14-year-olds,
Mhm.
sometimes even younger. What kind of advice would you give like parents that aren't into the paranormal, but their child is? What kind of advice would you give parents with their children into the paranormal?
Just like I would if your kid came to you and admitted to being gay or admitted to having different beliefs than you. Be accepting, be loving, ask questions. Um, don't lead them. Don't. So, do you feel that way because of this? Allow them to explain to you why they feel that way, why they believe that, why they're fascinated by that, because there may be something bigger going on. We started off this conversation talking about Shane's new book and how he talks about dealing with grief and abuse and ghosts and how that opened him up to the paranormal. And I was a severely abused young man. I was beat up almost every day in school for first grade through fourth grade. I ended up having a nervous breakdown in fourth grade because I was so twisted by the people that were abusing me, and they were kids, other kids, but even the teachers were verbally abusive at school, and it was not a great atmosphere. My mom came in and moved me to another school when she saw it happen right in front of her. And I just think you have to realize that we're, like I said, a much smaller community than I think we give each other credit for. And showing compassion for the living and compassion for the dead is, I think, what makes me a good investigator and Shane a good investigator and Cindy a good investigator, is because we're not just in it to prove the paranormal. We're in it to help the spirits. We're in it to be the voice of those that have been forgotten or those that are afraid. So with children, They don't know anything. They want to learn, and if you reject them and make them feel bad, I liken it to when I was a kid, and my dad wasn't a jerk about it. My dad loves sports and he loved football, but he didn't want to sit there and have an idiot 7-year-old asking him 1,000 questions. Go outside and play. Go play. Right. So I never liked football until I became an adult and moved to Minnesota. And my friends, come on, let's go watch the Vikings. And I'm like, football. I just had a bad vibe because of football because I had a bad experience with my dad talking about it. And then the 2 games he took me to in Chicago, it was bloody cold. It was like November and the gale force winds of Lake
Yep.
Michigan blowing in across you. It was not a pleasant experience. But when I was able to sit down and ask my friends, well, what does that mean? What are they doing? Why did they do that? And they taught me, I felt better and I felt accepted. And now I understand it. I don't understand it great. I'm 57 years old. I still don't know what half the positions are in football. I just know I like watching one guy run the ball and another guy throw the ball and somebody cool catch the ball. And sometimes I like to watch some guy hit another guy who's got the ball. So that's really all I enjoy. And I think that that's the same for the paranormal. These kids watch these shows. They see that we're into horror movies. And I have to laugh because I've been approached. I co-wrote a book called The Other Side, A Teen's Guide to Ghost Hunting and the Paranormal. And I had detractors shooting me down. How dare you write a book for kids? Yet these same morons were the ones that were letting their kids watch Child's Play when they were 3, or Nightmare on Elm Street when they were 5, or Halloween when they were 6. So you're going to tell me that what I'm doing is more scarring than what you're doing. Well, you don't understand. My kid's mature enough. Well, I do understand. And what I also understand is your kids may have questions about the paranormal, and somebody should answer those questions. And here's a book to do that. And we didn't talk down to kids. As a matter of fact, the book was written for everybody. The publisher slapped the word teen on the cover at the last minute to cash in on the Twilight market, to be honest with you. I guess sparkly vampires and ghost hunting somehow went hand in hand in their mind. But the fact was that the book, I think, did well because it transcends. You can read it, and whether you're a longtime ghost hunter or brand new to this, it can speak to you and teach you how to understand. So the advice for kids, educate yourself, learn, just like anything you wanted in life. Learn, talk, watch shows, watch documentaries, read books, listen to podcasts, because this is where you learn. This is where we take those next evolutionary steps together. And then you realize you're not alone in hearing these things and being afraid of these things or not being afraid of these things. And you have a community that you find that can help you through them.
Yeah, I agree, because a lot of people think I'm crazy when I take my son on investigations with me, but he loves it. So I don't give a shit what anybody thinks.
Yeah, you're there with him. You're protecting him. You're keeping an eye on him. I'd rather have my kid with me, teaching them the right way to do things, than have them learn from some yokel on YouTube who's running around at night in an old building that's been closed down that might have asbestos or black mold or exposed wiring or holes in the floor that they don't see and they could fall through and get hurt. So I would rather that my kid is with me and I can teach them the right ways to do this, and that you don't go in yelling at ghosts. You go in and you show empathy and love and respect for ghosts, and because they are people and those energies are us. So I think that I would much rather people take the time. So what's my best advice for kids? Buy the book, The Other Side, A Teen's Guide to Ghost Hunting and the Paranormal by Dave Schrader, Patrick Burns, and Marley Gibson. Where can you buy it? Well, that's a great question. Just go to paranormal60.com. That's paranormal60.com, and you'll find my books there. I'm Dave Schrader, and I approve this message. That's great, Alicia. I'm glad your parents now understand you and support you. And it would have been so much nicer had they done that when we were younger, and I was so lucky. I grew up with my mom and aunt who loved Stephen King and Dean Koontz, but they read the books by the real investigators. They read the books by Dr. Hans Holzer and D. Scott Rogo and William Roll and all of these other, the Warrens. So they were always educating. And then when I would be afraid, they would talk me through it and help me understand what's actually going on and remove some of that stigma, because I'm a firm believer in not walking in a place of fear. And I think that removing the fear begins with education.
So will people be able to buy your book, Moxie bracelet, or autograph pictures at Paranormal Rockdown?
No, but they can fist fight me for them, and if they beat me, they get a free one. That's not true either. I lied. Yeah, I'm going to bring copies of my book, The Theater of the Mind, and I'll bring copies of The Other Side. I'll have some of my Moxie Malice Phases of the Moon bracelet with me. I'll have some autographed pictures. Who knows? Maybe I'll even sing karaoke. I'm not going to sing karaoke either. Scarioke, the way I sing it.
Not even if we get some drinks in you, you won't sing karaoke?
I don't drink it. You'll notice at a lot of these events, I'm not a drinker at these events. When I'm there for the fans of the paranormal and people that wanted to meet me. And the last thing they want to do is hang out with a drunken idiot version of Dave.
I'm talking after everybody leaves and we're all just hanging out at Broadhead.
Probably not.
We had fun watching
hang out at a haunted location and get drunk. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. I would rather not invite something in because I lower the threshold for myself. So, and that's cool. Everybody else has their way of doing things. That's not a comfort level for me.
It's more fun to watch.
Yeah, I would rather watch you make an ass of yourself than me make an ass of myself. It's a lot more fun. Just ask Shane. I've many pictures of him being an ass and me not being an ass. Although I'm sure him hearing this, he's now going, well, you're an ass right now, Dave.
I still remember you guys. It had to have been like maybe 3-4 years ago. You guys were at a bar or something afterwards, and Shane was like completely plastered, and you were just still as can be.
Somebody's got to be the dad, right? So I keep an eye on my flock. I'm the one that stays sober and aware, so I could watch when if there's people that have ill intentions. I'm there to kind of shake things up and pull my friends out. Doesn't mean I won't stand there and watch them look goofy for a little bit and then pull them out, but and it's weird to be a guy that has 11 kids and talk about pulling out because you'd think I would know nothing about that. Derek, I don't know, maybe one song. I just, you know what? I know what I sound like, Derek. And the last thing I want to leave on your palette is, the whole shack shimmies when everybody's moving around and around and around and around. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to see me do that live and in concert.
Oh.
Everybody's grooving, everybody's moving, baby.
Oh my goodness.
There you go. You got my one song for the year.
I was just going to say, there's your one song, Derek.
Wow. This is recorded, right?
It is.
And for $9.99, you can get me to do a cameo song for you. And who knows? Maybe I should start charging $50 on Cameo, and I'll sing whatever song you want me to sing.
I'll request Wham.
All right. But it's only going to be Careless Whisper, and I'm going to sing it like 1990s Eddie. So there you go.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm never gonna dance again. Right? Give a little bit of 90s gruffness to it.
There you go.
So, Dawn, I know you had a complete huge list of questions for Dave. What else you got?
Yeah. No, I was going to ask, other than Cindy and Shane, do you have like anybody else that you really enjoy investigating with, like either on or off camera?
Chris Fleming.
Okay.
I love working with Sarah Lemos, the medium. I love working with Scotty Davis, the medium. Dalen Spratt and I get along great, and we have some amazing experiences. Dustin Perry, Richard Estep, of course, my best friend, Jeff Belanger. These are people I love to investigate with. I love to be in the moments and have these experiences with them. It makes them even more memorable for me in doing that. But I just love investigating. It's like, again, picking a favorite song or picking a favorite kid. There's been people I don't like investigating with. But I for the most part really just like investigating with everybody. I like watching what techniques they bring to the party.
Yeah.
I like investigating with the Ghost Adventures guys, the Paranormal State kids. I began the big events in 2006. Darkness Radio events were the first big paranormal events out there, where I would have Jason and Grant and Steve from Ghost Hunters, Chip
Mhm.
Coffey, Chris Fleming, Patrick Burns, and then local talent from these different cities and states that would come out and share different insights and elements of the paranormal. So I've really enjoyed investigating with a lot of different people, and even people that don't have a background in the paranormal. Sometimes, you go in at Joliet State Prison, right? Done. Somebody's there, and I'm like, hey, can somebody sing? And yeah, okay, sing Amazing Grace. And
Mhm.
I watch them sing it and they begin to glow. And then we get EVP or we get responses. And I just think that's so powerful. I love watching everybody has their thing, you know?
Mhm.
Is there anybody you haven't investigated with that you want to?
Yeah, I would love for Josh Gates and I to just be like locked in a haunted castle together, no cameras, nothing, just the two of us investigating. Gates and I get along great. We love each other like brothers, and we've been on set a couple of times, like we did the Ghost Adventures Halloween special together. And
Mhm.
there were some fun bits that we were talking about when you guys couldn't see us. Like if you remember the last live Halloween special at Zach's museum, they were debating, should we open up the Dybbuk box? Should we not open the Dybbuk box? Should we open the Dybbuk box? And they're going through this long conversation. And I'm using the walkie and I go, all right, here's the plan. I'm going to get one of the PAs to go over and get near the power switch for the entire thing. Josh, you and I are going to storm in, push Zach and the team aside. We're both going to reach over and grab one of the doors of the Dybbuk box, swing it open, then scream and drop to our knees. And then the PA is going to turn off the lights. And he's like, let's do it, Schrader. And the directors are coming over our headsets going, no, do not do that. Do not do that. And we're like, yeah, we're doing it. We're going in. So I would love to just be able to investigate with Gates somewhere. I'd love to go out with Expedition Bigfoot. I'm going later on this year at Phenomicon in Utah. Dr. Maria Mayer and I are going to be at the Skinwalker Ranch adjacent property.
I'm going.
Yeah,
I'll
and
be
we're
there.
getting that together. So I'm excited about doing that again. There's a lot of people I'd love to get a chance to work with, and that I haven't yet. And I would really love to work with Cody and Satori and watch them do their thing, because all I've heard is amazing things from people that have been there to witness when they start communicating and things start knocking and pounding and making their presence known.
They were actually just in Lamont. I know you're from Illinois, so you know where Lamont's at. They were just in Lamont like yesterday or day before.
Yeah, I've investigated with them at Mansfield Reformatory, but at that time they'd been taking some heat from some bullies online, calling them out and saying that what they do is fake and BS. Until you're there on the boots on the ground watching this, shut up. Just shut up. Keep your dumbass opinion to yourself until you're there and can witness these things for yourself. You're not so smart. And I mean that to everybody. And I'm not trying to be condescending, but just stop being such judgy wudgy pricks. Go and investigate with these people. See for yourself before you say it doesn't happen or that's impossible. Because need to remind you, there are many things that were impossible. Beating a 5-minute mile was impossible until it wasn't, right? Going to the moon was impossible until it wasn't. Breaking the sound barrier was impossible until it wasn't. So everything is impossible until you get to do it.
100% agree.
Yeah, I get so tired of the negativity online.
Well, it's easy because you can be a bully and nobody can look you in the eyes. That's the problem. You used to have some decorum because you didn't want to face somebody and say something hurtful to them because you didn't want to see the expression of pain in their face or on their eyes. But there's something inherently wrong with us that we're at the point of, I don't have to look at you, Dawn. So I can say something hateful, but then I can sit back and gleam when I watch you post something heartbreaking about how somebody said something that hurt your feelings today. And then I can nudge my buddies and go, what a baby, grow up, Dawn. There's just something inherently wrong with people that's okay.
Yeah.
And life's too short to be cruel and mean for no purpose. And don't think you know it all because you don't know shit, period, until you're actually out doing these things. Well, I've been out doing these things. Well, just because it hasn't happened for you doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just hasn't happened for you.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, and it's ego thinking they're better than everybody else, better than another team, and it just gets ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if anybody in the world is allowed to have an ego, it's international TV sensation, Golden Telly Award winning, and now best-selling author Dave Schrader. And I'm far from egotistical. Go ahead and ask all my fans.
Oh,
Have I ever had a frightening experience during an investigation? Yeah, Derek, you should watch my show. It's called Holzer Files and Ghost of Devil's Perch. I have had many frightening moments that have happened. Getting knocked on my ass at the Whaley House was one of them. I don't, fear is a different thing. Everybody has a different threshold, right? Just like hot sauce, right? I am a wimp when it comes to hot sauce. Like I'll go get buffalo wings, but I got to get the mild and I'm still sweating with a runny nose. My dad will go get wings and he gets the ghost pepper, cayenne pepper, jalapeno devil's ass dip. And he'll sit there and eyes sweating and he just shovels them down like it's nothing. And everybody has a tolerance level. And in the paranormal, I don't begrudge you because you get frightened easily, Shane. I think, everybody's got their own level of what was comfortable for them. And look, Shane was a totally different person when he started Holzer Files and where he is today. He's not nearly as jumpy and nervous. He's learned that the things we fear are often not real, or the perceptions, right? We hear these stories. Oh, this ghost is mad. Why? Because it yells or this. Maybe it's just trying to get your attention.
yeah.
I know it sounds scary because you've seen horror movies, and in horror movies, is terrifying. But when they're trying to yell from one dimension to another, and your recorder catches it, I give them the benefit of the doubt. They may just be screaming to get my attention. Even when I get knocked on my butt, it's so easy to walk in fear. And look at all the things I would have missed had I walked away from doing any more paranormal investigations after that. Instead, I took it as a gift that the spirit felt comfortable enough with me that they could lash out and know I wouldn't run away. So I hope that answers your questions. Sorry, these long pauses are killing me as a radio show host, guys. I can't do silence.
I know.
I'm trying to read the comments as they're popping up here.
Yeah, I was trying to read them.
Right, Alicia. There's nothing to be afraid of in the dark. It's the people in the dark you should be afraid of, right? I am more terrified at a live event by some of the people in attendance than I am by the ghosts.
That's great.
And I don't mean that rudely, but like I would not allow kids under the age of 18 to attend my events because there's a lot of time we're in dark rooms and I can't be everywhere at all times watching. And I don't want a kid getting hurt or touched inappropriately or something. So I wouldn't allow it. So it wasn't the ghosts or demons I was afraid of. Oh, you don't let people in because under 18 because you don't want them being, scared by a ghost. No, that's not it at all. I don't want them being scared by the fleshies that might be there amongst us in the darkness.
Yeah, correct. I mean, you got to worry about more of the living people around them than the spirits around them.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give somebody that's new to starting in the paranormal world? Like what equipment should they start with? Or
the most basic piece of equipment on planet Earth is right here. Right? It's a camera, it's a video camera, it's an audio recorder, your cell phone. Put it on airplane mode and use it to investigate. Bond with one tool. I love EVP, so I bond with my recorder. And I feel by making that my go-to, I get better communication. I don't use 14 different recorders, I use one. And that's what I go to, and I get good responses from it. You don't have to spend a lot of money to begin this. You don't have to buy all the equipment. The equipment's cool and it's fun to play with, but it shouldn't break the bank. Man, I watch people. Can you, I put up a GoFundMe. Can you help support? I need to buy some new equipment for ghost hunting. If you can't afford it, don't do it. I'm really running into hard times. Can you help me buy food for my family? Yet I see them on an investigation and they've got $30,000 worth of equipment. You have to prioritize, and you are the best paranormal tool out there. I would much rather have a moment where I hear, see, experience something, and I don't need you to believe me, and I don't need the proof to you that it happened. I'm just glad to have had the experience, and I wish more people would accept it that way.
Mhm. Yep. I agree 100% because people ask me, "Oh, have you seen it? What have you experienced? And it's like, well, I haven't gotten anything on, record. I haven't seen a spirit, but I have felt a lot. I have really felt a lot, but
And I know, I think
there's
it was
no proof, but
Derek asked something about protection. I'm into
yeah.
prayer, and I wear my protective bracelets and stuff like that, but I'm also cautious with it. I feel like if I go into a place and I've got my crucifix in one pocket, my holy water in the next, and all of my Bengali beads that are blessed and filled with Reiki, what message am I putting out to the spirit? So if I'm a ghost and I only have so much energy, and one of you is protected to the hilt and the other is open, I'm going to just go to the person that's open because I don't want to try to fight through all that boundary to get your attention. So, afterwards is when I do it, and I do prayer. I'm not a big proponent of smudge sticks. Again, to me, that's intention. So is a prayer. So I'll encompass myself with the concept of white light. I'll say my prayers. And what I just do is I call back the parts of me. I say, Lord, just bring back my mind, body, spirit, return to me all that's mine. And I ask that you take away everything that is not me. I ask that you separate and cleave me from those energies, and then surround me in a thorny hedge of protection, or a horny fedge of protection. Who cares? See, that's why you don't want to see me drinking and talking. It's hard. Words be hard. But I'll ask for prayers where I get protected that way at the end of the investigation, because I really don't want to bring things home to my family. Not that I think that happens often, but I've been a dad for 40 years, and I don't want to bring things home to my kids and family, and then I'm gone a lot. I don't want to worry about what kind of paranormal havoc is taking place at home.
Now, with that being said, have you ever had something come home with you?
Yeah, but I married her. So, have I ever had? Yeah, I don't know. Again, and I know this always sounds like such a corny answer. I can't say, oh, I was at the home where Chris passed away, and now I'm at home and there's a ghost here. It must be the ghost of Chris. I don't know. I can't see it. It might not identify itself to me, so I have no way of knowing where it came from.
So Alicia's got a question. It says, Dave, do you go into locations and feel out of place and investigate, or you feel drawn to them?
Yeah, Alicia, I have. I've tried to lean more into my sensitivity. It's funny. I've got a lot of medium and psychic friends that are like, Dave, you are so sensitive, man. Uh, you got to lean into it. And there have been times that we've been investigating, and literally I'll suddenly turn and feel pulled to the corner while everybody's focused over here. And I go over in the corner and break out my recorder, and I start getting Class A EVP. I'll feel pulled to a certain area. So I try to go where I feel pulled. And there are times I can walk in a room and I'm like, it's dead, man. I don't feel anything in here. Yet Dalen's getting responses. Sometimes you're just not in tune with the situation. That's why here's my biggest piece of advice for investigators. And this is tough. But if you're in a bad mental space, you just had a fight with your spouse, you had a crappy day at work, your kids were being disrespectful jerks to you, and you're in a foul mood, you shouldn't be out investigating. Putting yourself in a vulnerable position when you're already emotionally wrung, I think can cause problems. So I just think you need to be cautious when you go in. That's why to become an investigator, most of it is boots on the ground work first, learning, educating, teaching yourself how to research a location, teaching yourself how to go to the historical society, what questions to ask. That doesn't sound like you're a nut. How do you start getting information to substantiate the claims that are at these places without leading people? Once you start to learn the art of you know interviewing, you learn the art of getting your hands dirty going through papers and looking for the information. uh, you have to learn the art of patience, because it doesn't always happen when or where or how you want it to happen. So a lot of that, then once you're getting good at that, then you start going out on investigations. And then I would say for the first year, you should just shut up and watch what people do and soak it in and take the good and the bad. I love going on an investigation with idiots too, because I love seeing, oh, well, I'll never do that on an investigation. Or it's interesting that they're getting results. How can I take that, tweak it, make it better, and go from there? And I, just like you guys, we've all been on investigations with a goofball or three. And you know, that's how they feel comfortable. That's what they're doing. I will sometimes teach them or try to show them, I think you might get more response if you do it this way, and then show them how and why I believe that. But again, it's up to you to try that and instill it or not. And sometimes I've learned from other people a much better way. When I go into a place that they say there are children's ghosts, a lot of times I'll sit down on the ground with my legs crossed and get on their level and talk to them. Kids are intimidated by big people. I'm 6'1", 280 pounds. I can be intimidating to a full grown adult. As a child, it's even worse. So I sit on the floor. I try to lighten my expression. I raise my eyebrows. I speak in a little bit more sing-songy voice. Hey, I don't want you to be afraid. You can come over and talk to me. I've got kids and I've got grandkids. Their favorite games are playing hide and seek with me. What was your favorite game? Do you like to play games now? Has it been a long time since somebody sang happy birthday to you? Would you like me to sing happy birthday to you? And sometimes just in very mundane questions, what was your favorite color? Oh, if you could eat anything again, what would you wish you could eat? Sometimes that's when you start getting the response, right? So I've learned that from some very empathetic, very sweet people, getting on the level of the person that you're trying to communicate with, being vulnerable. If I'm talking to a woman that was abused, maybe murdered or hurt, I will not stare at them like I'm doing to Dawn right now. I'll ask questions and keep my head bowed out of respect. And Dawn, if you'd like to talk to me, I'd love for you to explain to me why you're here. Is there something I can do for you? I'm sorry that you've been hurt. And that was life. You don't have to continue to be hurt, and you don't have to continue to be locked here because of your fear. Do you ever call for your friends and relatives? Would you like me to call for your friends and relatives and see if they'll come help you and be with you? And just kind of in having conversations like that with the spirit realm, I think that's why I get a lot of really good results.
Yeah, like we were just saying about the kids getting on their level. I was at a location one time where wasn't getting anything, and then as soon as I sat on the floor in the kids' room, sitting there for about 10 minutes, it felt like a little kid got on my back, like it wanted a piggyback ride.
Oh, that was a demon.
That would only be if I was YouTube famous. It would be a demon.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And I'm not beating up all YouTubers. There are a lot of great YouTubers out there as well, but
yeah,
unfortunately, they know what draws. And unfortunately, people watch that because they love watching train wrecks. They love watching overacting and silliness and people running around scared and screaming. So you teach them that this is an okay, acceptable way to investigate.
Yep. And then that's the people that go and destroy these locations and cause other people not to go and investigate there.
Well, in some cases, Chris, but there's also other cases where they start off that way. And then once they start having really profound experiences, it changes them and it changes the way they do it. So I give everybody their length of rope to learn and educate. And you know what? A lot of those people fall by the wayside eventually.
Yep. So, Dawn, you got any more questions for Dave before we call it a night?
I was going to ask, and I think I asked you this before in Juliet, but can you share the story about the Gilliland's Ranch UFO?
Sure.
When you saw that? That is hilarious.
Yeah, it was 2006, and I was driving home from work one night, and I was listening to Coast to Coast AM, and James Gilliland was on, and he lives in Trout Lake, Washington, and he is the owner and proprietor of the Assetti Ranch. And you can find more information at eceti.org. And I was just impressed with how basic his whole conversation was. It was never exploitive. It was just very matter of fact. This is what happens. These are the things I see. These are the things I've learned. And then what really stuck with me at the end of the thing was, and I invite anybody to come here. On a clear night, you have a 90 to 95% chance of seeing something over my property. Well, now, as a paranormal investigator, if you told me at 3 p.m. on Wednesday the ghost of Elvis walks in and orders donuts at Dunkin' Donuts, I'm going to be there at 2 p.m. and stay there till 5, hoping that I'm going to see the ghost of Elvis. So, and he said, you don't need an invitation. The gate's always open. So I legitimately went out there and went to go see it. And I was there over the period of 3-4 nights. First night, nothing really happened when I got there. It was a very cloudy night. But as we were watching Mount Adams, the volcano, there were all these lights pulsating in the clouds. And he's telling me, oh, well, that's the craft. They hover and that's their lair. And, part of me is like, their lair? What is it, Dr. Evil? They hang out in a volcano with sharks with lasers, right? So I was, okay, sure. But part of me is going, okay, well, it's probably atmospheric effect because you have low-hanging clouds that are probably filled with moisture. There's gases being emitted from volcanoes, even if they're dormant. And it's probably just creating this illusion that there are lights within the clouds. Maybe I was trying to tell myself that because I felt better than believing that that's a lot closer to my hotel. Maybe there's aliens hovering. The next night I went out there and I watched and I saw these things zigzagging in the sky and moving around at breakneck speeds. The third night I went out, I decided, we were all just focused at Mount Adams. So I went out in the field and I turned around and watched towards the house. And I thought, let's see what we can see. And as I'm standing there just kind of watching, after about an hour and a half, this thing comes flying out from behind the pine trees. And I say flying, it fluttered across the sky like a manta ray swims in the water. But it was glowing blue. Now, it wasn't lighting up the sky. It was like self-contained. If you can imagine that ice pack you have in the freezer that you throw in your cooler, that's like clear on the outside, but it's got that light blue iridescent gel in the middle. So it's like that blue exists within the confines of that ice pack. That's what it looked like. It looked like the blue was inside this thing, but it was swimming across the air. And it was so weird looking that I thought, oh, this son of a gun is projecting a special effect on a screen between those trees. So I went charging at it, thinking this guy's doing like a bad 1980s music video effect. And I started throwing rocks between the trees and nothing bounced back. And I went back and I talked to James and I'm like, he goes, what'd you see? And I'm like, I saw this thing swim through the sky. It looked like a manta ray swimming through the sky. He goes, oh yeah, that's a half biological craft. It's half living, half machine. That's how it gets in between the dimensions. I have no way to explain it better than that, but I looked at him and I was the one that saw it. And I thought, whatever you're smoking, I'd like a couple of puffs of, because that's the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life. But I can't explain it any better than he did. I don't know what it is, but he was confident that that's what it was. So that really shifted my paradigm. I mean, I saw it with my own two eyes.
Thanks. Love that story.
And get that and more of Dave Schrader's greatest hits by picking up the book Theater of the Mind, Tales from the Darkness, available now on Amazon, or get your signed copies at paranormal60.com.
All right, guys. I think we're going to call it a night. We're just over an hour here.
Well, for people that don't know about the Rockdown, tell them a little bit more about what they can expect from the weekend, Chris.
We can expect lots of great live music. We got 7 rock bands coming. We just added, again, We Rise, because that Amsterdam unfortunately had to back out. But we all know who Green Jelly is. Green Jelly's going to close out the night. They're our headliner. Then you can come on Saturday to Broadhead, and we're going to have our Paracon with Master of Ceremonies there. Dave Schrader's going to be there. We're going to have Josh Purvis is going to be there as well, part of Beacon TV. We're going to have Mike Gagliano, Marilyn Bast, Stormy Daniels is going to be there as well. We're going to have vendors, food, speakers. It's just been a great time all Saturday and Friday.
So come on out, be a part of Broadhead, where the whole shack shimmies when everybody's moving around and around and around and around.
Yeah, you
All the
might
ghosts
see.
are booing. All the ghosts are booing, baby.
You've
like
been to
that.
Broadhead, haven't you, Dave?
No. You know what?
I thought you were there for a different Paracon.
I may have been. It's been a while. I've been all around the world, and sometimes the names and places start to escape me because I'm senile.
So
What are you two
with that,
doing in
is
my
there
living
one
room?
place you haven't been to that you want to go to?
Yes, the White House.
I think I've heard that
Not
one before.
Necessarily for the people that live there, but for the ghosts.
You
Right.
better start. You better start going for president then, because that's the only way you're
I
getting
can't
in
do
there.
any worse than the last couple have done.
No,
This is true. I'd vote for you.
I would too.
Plus, you guys have heard my my campaign song.
No,
No.
haven't.
The whole country shimmies when everybody's moving around and around and around and around.
Oh,
Wow.
that could be your intro for when you're walking out on stage.
Yep. I dare you.
Well, thank you both for having me on. I look forward to meeting everybody at the Paranormal Rockdown. We're going to have a
Thank
great
you.
time together. And if we don't have a good time, it's probably Dawn and Chris's fault.
Oh, wow. Hey.
Yep, you could 100% blame me. I'll take all the blame.
Perfect. Thank you guys for having me on.
It's going to be fun.
I believe you.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everybody, for joining us
you.
on our special night here, even though it's late. I appreciate y'all for joining. ParanormalRockdown.com. Get your tickets, and we will see you all in July.
Bye.
Right. Bye.
Bye, everyone.